morning, everybody, or afternoon or evening, or whatever time of day you are watching this video. It is morning for me. Everybody in my house is asleep except for my dad, who is walking our dogs, which means there'll be no barking unless my neighbors decide to get out at 6:30 in the morning and start mowing their lawn. We'll just have like the little sounds, which is the cars going back and forth. We should have a very quiet video for my August wrap up. No! Holy crap. Hi, Ralphie. Okay, sit down. Sit. Holy crap. You're gonna sit down. You're gonna sit down on top of me. Okay. So welcome, everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Monica, and welcome back to my channel. Let me get into my stats and get into some of the books I do want to talk about that I did read in the month of August. I cannot believe it is September, and it is Labor Day, like I had just said. And we are saying, everybody is saying we can't believe it's September. Well, I mean, come on. This is like the 9th month in 2023. This year is flying by. I remember sitting at my computer and it just literally felt like a couple months ago making this graphic, the basis of this graphic without all my favorites. So these are my favorites. So I'm just going to show you all my favorites, and you'll have seen them on Instagram if you have followed me on Instagram. I remember it feels like a couple months ago where I was sitting there in December of 2022. It feels like a couple months ago that I was just making this graphic thinking, oh, this is going to be a long time from now where I'm going to be showing this graphic. That's why I'm like, wait a minute. So yeah, my favorites from the month of August was Under the Stars and On the Shore by Laura Pavlov, Shattered Truths by H. Hunting. I actually did read Real by Kennedy Ryan, A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner, Foxglove by Adeline Grace, I Could Never by Penelope Ward, and I'll talk about that in a minute, Unbrick My Heart by Nicole Jacqueline. So there are a few books I definitely want to talk about, and the first one I do want to talk about is On the Shore, which is book 3 in the Cotton I can never say this correctly. It's a tongue twister for me. The Cotton Cove series. This is really the first series that I have really connected with Laura Pavlov. The other ones were fine. They were good. They were just not something to write home about for me. I really, really, really enjoyed the banter. Brinkley, I really loved the way she butted heads with Lincoln, but it wasn't true enemies to lovers. It was a very well-paced small town romance. Like I said, it wasn't a true enemies to lovers. It was more of they had misconceptions of each other, and so they were mean to each other, and then they worked with each other, and then they fell in love with each other. I mean, once they got over their misconceptions. So I really liked the way they worked with each other. I liked the way they defended each other. Just fix my shirt. And I really liked the way that they fell in love. And it just, to me, it really worked. The spice was there. The chemistry was there. The character growth was there. The backstories were there. The way that the characters connected was there. Even the small town antics were there. And I feel like in this particular series as a whole, Laura Pavlov has grown as a writer. You can see her really taking off on her craft. I feel like this is where she's starting to shine as a writer. And I really want to celebrate her as a writer because, I mean, this one, she's doing such good work, and I feel it, and I'm really excited for her new book to come out. Another book I want to talk about is Real by Kennedy Ryan. I read that in one sitting, and oh my gosh, it is not going to be on my top favorites of favorites list because that one is still sticking with Long Shot, and I can't just put all of Kennedy Ryan's books on the top favorites of favorites. I'm sorry, I just can't do that. Long Shot is still on there, but oh my gosh, that book is fantastic. That will definitely be on my favorites of favorites. So it will be on my top 23 of 23. That one, she does it so well with I love the lupus representation. I love the Harlem Renaissance representation when she's talking about the old black jazz singers from the 1920s and stuff. I know who she's talking about because I grew up listening to them because of my mother, funny enough. So when she was talking about it, I was like, yeah, I know who she's talking about. Because my mom got into a lot of that stuff when she was really, really young, when she was living in New York. But anyway, I digress. I love Can and his relationship with Neva. It is beautifully written. It's very, very lyrical. And I loved the connection between Canon and Nivea. I loved the way that they wanted it to be together, and then they were trying to deny, and then they were like, oh, screw it, we're just gonna be together. In the conflict between Nivea and her sister, and rightfully so, because what her sister did was pretty trashy. That was not okay. There was never gonna be a time that would have ever been okay. Anyway, so yeah, I love this book. I think it's gonna be on my favorites list. The only reason why it's not dethroning Long Shot is because the singing on the audiobook, that just sort of got repetitive after a while, and it was just driving me crazy. I did not need that, and that's okay. That's a me thing. It's not the oh, that would be my kitties. So my kitties just gave in, so if you hear some meowing and purring, that's why. It became distracting after a while, and I found myself fast-forwarding through the singing, and that is pretty much the only reason. Well, that, and I felt like, and I love August, and I think August and Iris's story is really an important story to tell, and I just love it. So that's the whole reason why Rail did not. I just can't. If I had to choose between one or the other, it would be Long Shot for me specifically. The next one I read, and I read this before, is A Love Letter to Whiskey. I was scared of this. This was on my list of books that I wanted that was gonna scare me, and because I heard this was really angsty that I was gonna want to throw it against the wall. Actually, I was so scared of this. I thought it was going to be like I was gonna DNF it, because I thought it was gonna be like super painful. It wasn't. It was good though. It was really, really good. They just were making dumb decisions, okay? They thought that they could make these decisions. Well, you two, stop chasing each other. So I have a dog right here. He finally fell asleep. And then I have two kitties chasing each other, just back and forth. Anyway, even when I think it's gonna be quiet, it's not quiet in my house. Okay, so yes, so Jamie. Okay, so originally I was gonna rate it 4.5 stars because honestly, the constant talking about alcohol references just kind of started irritating me a little bit, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I'm just like, screw it. I gave it 5 stars. I went back and changed it and gave it 5 stars. So it's B. She hates her first name because what her father did to her mother, and what her mother named her represented what her father did to her mother. And so she never uses her first name. It seizes her up, and she gets very upset when someone uses her first name. So she calls herself B. And Jamie. So B and Jamie, they really do fall for each other at first sight. But it's not right person, wrong time. I mean, it sort of is. It's right person. It's miscommunication, messiness. This book is one big miscommunication and messiness. It's right person, but they make the decision not to be together several times because of them not communicating with each other. They make assumptions, and then they make dumb decisions, and then they think that they think the other person will just magically be there waiting. And that's not always the case. and they hurt each other. Oh my gosh, it was so good. There was a purpose for this. Their messiness was what it should have been. There was a reason why. Because they loved each other, but yet they had things that they had to work on. They were trying to be together, but they just could not get themselves to get it together until finally, and I still could kick B for just not telling him, like, all right, fine. She had to write it in a book and then publish it instead of just saying, okay, you know what? I messed up. I'm sorry. Instead of verbally telling him, she had to write it in a book. I'm like, really? You could have just told him, you know that, right? It was so messy. But it was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be messier and more angstier than it was, but I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I just could not stop thinking about that book afterwards, and it was so good. It lived up to the hype. It lived up to what everybody was saying. Rosie, you leave that alone. No. Walter, get off my curtains. Walter, get off my curtains. Oh my gosh. Why do I have animals? Oh yeah, I love them. I love my animals. They are my babies. Way too fun to edit is Unbrick My Heart by Nicole Jacqueline. Okay, this one was seriously angsty. I think this one was actually more angsty than A Love Letter to Whiskey, because what he did to her, and this one, I'm gonna have to say thank you to Sam and to Cheyenne for getting me to read this book, because I thought I would hate the hero in this. So let me start from the beginning. Or Kate and Shane were friends, and then all of a sudden he realized that she had a crush on him. He's like kept calling her sloppy and stuff because she wore yoga pants and flip-flops. Anyway, he knew that she fell in love with him. Well, he went after her best friend and Rachel, and they end up but he decided that he was going to fall in love. He decided to date her friend Rachel instead. He ends up marrying Rachel, and they end up having 4 kids. And he ends up going into the military, and Kate ends up helping out all the time, to the point where it's unhealthy with Rachel and her kids. It's really unhealthy. She ends up being more of a mother to his kids than Rachel is a mother to the kids. Anyway, Rachel dies in a car crash. There is a lot of hurt there. On the year anniversary of Rachel's death, they get drunk and they have sex. Kate and Shane. And this is not a spoiler. She gets pregnant. Again, not a spoiler. And when she tells him, he is such a dick to her. Oh my gosh. There was a lot of hurt feelings, and he wanted the night to grieve his wife, and she came in because she was actually looking for him because someone sent her to look for him. Anyhow, but he continually hurts her. And she gives him chance after chance, but he continually becomes horrible to her. Then they grow close and stuff, and then there's stuff that happens. I wanted to really hate this hero, but I understood his stance behind a lot of stuff. But I hated his choices, but he grew. He really did grow. I think the heroine would have been weak, but she was actually incredibly strong. She was a very strong heroine. She should have been written as weak, but she wasn't. She was not weak at all. She was very strong and very resilient. And there was one scene where it literally broke my heart. Oh my gosh. Where he decides to take the kids back home and and there is definitely miscommunication in this, but the miscommunication was because she didn't want to hurt. She didn't want to put more stress on him, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, this is a very, very messy book. Oh my gosh, you have to read this book. You have to read Unbreak My Heart. If you haven't read Unbreak My Heart, you need to go read Unbreak My Heart. I'm serious. Sam and Cheyenne are right about this. You need to go read this book. So I read Shenders Truth by H. Hunting, and it was a I got it ARC for us. I got it early, and it was BJ's story, and so I was able to read it when the weekend when my sister got married. So I actually did not fly through it as I thought I was. I thought I was going to be able to read in one sitting. I was not able to, because obviously I was doing wedding stuff. But oh my gosh, I loved that book. And they got together very, very quickly in that book. But there was definitely two storylines where they were working with each other to support each other. A lot of the messiness came from outside forces, specifically with his skate partner and with her family. So there's domestic abuse situations in that book. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Was it as good as Bittersweet Heart and Little Lies? It's not as messy with the characters within the characters dynamic. No, it wasn't. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, this series to me, this series that Helena Hunting wrote is probably her strongest series by far. I loved every single book in this series. I gave every book in this series 5 stars. This one's no different. He's the figure skater. She's the hockey player. I loved how they supported each other. I felt like this one is one that you should just go in blind. Because I don't really want to give anything away. You should need to read all these in order because you're going to get the character dynamic. You can't really skip around in this series because of the secondary character dynamics, because then you'll understand more of the motivations of all the characters. I am so sorry about all the dog and cat noises. Oh my gosh. But these are some of the books that I have read in the month of August. Let me know what you have read, or if you've read any of these down below. Let me know what your favorite read of August was. Since it's now September, please leave me a leaf emoji. And until next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.